All right, let's dive into Eureka Forbes' Q2 FY25 financials.
Sounds good.
We've got the press release, their detailed financials, even a presentation deck.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, lot to unpack.
For sure.
But today's mission is to give you a clear picture of how Eureka Forbes performed this quarter and what it all means for their future.
Sounds like a plan.
So the press release highlights 14.7% year-over-year growth,
Hmm.
which, by the way, is their fourth consecutive quarter of double-digit growth.
Wow. So their transformation strategy seems to be working.
Seems to be, yeah. And on top of that, an 83% jump in profit after tax.
That's huge. It really shows how effective their transformation is.
Definitely. Plus, their EBITDA margin is expanded, too.
So they're getting more profit from every dollar of sales.
Exactly. Clearly, something's working. But what?
Right. We need to dig a little deeper to find out.
Yeah, let's see what's really driving this success.
Okay. That's good.
Well, one thing that jumps out from the report is their product business. It grew over 20% year over year, which is even more than their overall growth.
That's interesting. Looks like their product strategy is key here.
It seems like it, yeah.
And the presentation deck shows they're really focusing on innovation.
Okay.
Particularly with water purifiers and vacuum cleaners, like the change to the new AquaGuard upgrade campaign, and even new robotic vacuum cleaners.
Robotic vacuum cleaners, what do those do?
Well, the presentation says they offer hands-free dust cleaning for up to 65 days.
65 days. Wow, that's got to be convenient.
Right. Especially for busy folks.
Yeah, sign me up.
Sounds like they're tapping into that desire for convenience for sure.
Definitely. So they're innovating, but they're also, making sure people know about it.
That's right.
I mean, look at their advertising and sales promotion spending. It's up 40.1%.
Wow, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, they're definitely serious about getting the word out.
It's like they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Oh.
But while we're talking about money, let's look at their overall financial health.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
So their net debt seems stable, and they have a Care A+ stable credit rating.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah, but what does that mean exactly?
Well, those are key signs of a company's financial stability.
Oh, okay.
A stable debt position means they're managing their finances well.
Okay.
And a good credit rating shows that lenders trust them to repay debts.
So this gives them more options to, pursue growth.
Exactly, without being weighed down by financial burdens.
Gotcha. But let's zoom out for a second. What about the market they're in? Is that helping them?
That's a good question. And it looks like the answer is yes.
Really?
Their presentation highlights some favorable macro trends.
Like what?
Like urbanization, rising incomes, and more women joining the workforce.
I guess I can see how those would be good for them, but how do those trends connect to their product specifically?
Well, think about it. As more people move to cities and earn more money, their demand for products like water purifiers and vacuum cleaners naturally increases. They want convenience and a better quality of life.
Right.
And with more women working, those time-saving appliances become even more important.
It's like their ideal customer base is growing.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another interesting point.
Okay.
Piped water coverage in India has jumped massively.
Piped water? How does that help a company selling water purifiers?
That's the thing. Even with more piped water, concerns about water quality remain.
Ah, so they're selling peace of mind.
Exactly. This focus on health and hygiene definitely benefits them.
So they're innovating, they're well-positioned in the market, and their financials are strong.
Right.
What about their plans for the future?
Well, their press release emphasizes their confidence in driving sustained growth and profits.
Makes sense, given their current performance.
Yeah, and they just got listed on the National Stock Exchange, too.
Does that matter?
Definitely. Being on the NSE gives them more visibility and access to capital.
Okay.
Practically, it shows they're ambitious and ready for more growth.
Makes sense. But we've got to talk about competition, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're not the only ones playing this market.
Right. So who are their main competitors?
Well, you've got established brands like Kent and HUL.
Uh-huh.
And then there are these new direct-to-consumer brands and online marketplaces popping up.
So how do they stand out in such a crowded space?
Well, they've got brand recognition. They've been around for over 40 years.
Huh. That's a good point.
And they're known for quality and reliability. That's huge in a market where trust is so important.
Yeah. Great.
Plus, they have a huge distribution network and a large service footprint.
Okay, so they have brand power, a strong distribution network, and a good reputation.
Exactly.
But are they, just relying on that, or are they changing with the times?
Well, they're definitely not standing still.
Okay.
They're investing in innovation, as we saw with the new products, and they're ramping up their marketing.
Yeah.
Plus, they're embracing multiple channels, using both traditional retail and online platforms.
That's smart. It seems like they're covering all the bases.
Yeah, it does. But here's a thought. Can their direct selling model really work in today's digital age?
That's a good question. Direct selling has been their thing for a long time.
Right, but it's facing challenges from e-commerce and how consumers are shopping these days.
So is their legacy model holding them back?
Not necessarily. It looks like they're recognizing this shift and adapting.
Okay.
They're investing in their online presence, partnering with e-commerce platforms, and even testing direct-to-consumer channels.
So it's not just one or the other.
Exactly. They're creating a kind of hybrid model, combining the best of both worlds.
It's like they're taking their legacy and building on it.
Right. They're leveraging their strengths while embracing the digital world.
That's actually really smart. So they're balancing their legacy with innovation.
And navigating a competitive landscape while adapting to a rapidly changing market.
What does this all mean for them? What's the bottom line?
It means Eureka Forbes is in transition. They're selling a vision of a healthier, more hygienic future.
Interesting.
They're betting on India's rising middle class, changing consumer desires, and their ability to adapt.
Makes sense.
Their success depends on balancing their legacy with their ambitions, on navigating competition while staying true to their values, and capitalizing on opportunities while managing risks.
It's a complex but compelling story. And now, thanks to this deep dive, our listener has the knowledge to understand it.
That's right. But before we move on, any final thoughts for our listener? Something to think about.
Yeah, good idea.
Here's a question. Will Eureka Forbes' success spark more innovation in the health and hygiene industry?
That's a good one.
Could their success lead to new solutions, technologies, and even new business models?
And not just benefit consumers, but the environment, too.
Exactly. It's something to consider.
It is. It shows how companies can impact society.
Definitely. It goes beyond just the balance sheet.
Well said. And that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course. My pleasure.
We'll continue this exploration of Eureka Forbes' Q2 FY25 financials in our next episode.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, happy learning.
Happy learning. It's fascinating, really, how they're balancing their traditional strengths with the need to, embrace these new approaches.
Yeah.
It's like they're bridging the past and the future.
I like that.
But we can't forget that even with all this good stuff, there are always challenges, right?
Right? No business is perfect, and Eureka Forbes is no exception.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of headwinds might they face?
Good question. What are some potential obstacles?
Well, one that comes to mind is competition. The reports don't really delve into it that much, but we can't ignore the fact that they're operating in a pretty dynamic market with somebody aggressive competitors.
So who are they up against? Who are the big players they need to watch out for?
Well, there are the established brands like Kent and HUL.
Right, we talked about those.
Yeah, but then you also have these emerging players, especially online.
Oh.
And don't forget about the international brands coming into India.
That's a good point.
They're attracted by the growth potential, so it's getting crowded.
So, competition from all sides. How do they plan to stay ahead in that kind of environment?
That's where their strengths really come into play.
Okay.
Their brand recognition, their reputation for quality, that huge distribution network, the service footprint, all of that gives them an edge.
That makes sense.
But they can't just rely on past success, right?
Right.
They've got to keep innovating, keep up with what consumers want, and really communicate what makes them special.
A constant balancing act, basically.
Yeah. Oh, and let's not forget the bigger economic picture.
Sure.
Inflation is still a concern globally.
Yeah.
And that could affect how much people are willing to spend, even in a strong economy like India.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can't assume things will keep going up forever.
Right. Inflation can make people tighten their belts, spend less. So it'll be interesting to see how Eureka Forbes adjusts their pricing, their product lines, to deal with that.
Right, making sure their products are affordable for a wider range of people.
Exactly. It's not just about cool products. It's about making them accessible.
Exactly. And, something else that stood out to me in their presentation. They really emphasized the early festive season.
Oh, yeah.
Like it seems that really helped them this quarter.
True, but festive seasons come and go.
Yeah, it's not a constant thing.
Exactly. It's a boost when it happens, but not something you can count on every time.
So, okay, We've got great financials, ambitious plans, and a positive market outlook.
Right.
But we also have potential challenges. Competition, economic uncertainty, these cyclical factors.
Yeah, it's a mix.
What's the takeaway for our listener then? What should they be paying attention to as Eureka Forbes moves forward?
I think the key takeaway is that Eureka Forbes is at a turning point.
Okay.
They're not just a well-established brand anymore. They're actively shaping their future.
Right, they're not just resting on their laurels.
Exactly. They're investing, they're going after growth, and they seem to understand that the market's changing.
Yeah.
The big question is, can they keep this up? Can they handle the competition, the economic uncertainty, and can they keep innovating fast enough to stay ahead?
It's like a high-stakes game.
It really is.
They've made some good moves so far, but the game's not over.
Nope, not at all. The next few quarters will be very telling.
Yeah.
Will they keep finding those winning strategies or, will they stumble? It's exciting to watch.
Definitely. And for our listener, this is where it goes beyond just the numbers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's about watching how this story unfolds.
Yes.
Paying attention to what products they launch, their marketing, how they react to what's happening in the economy and the industry.
Like, do they actually walk the walk?
Right. It's like we've given our listener a behind-the-scenes look at a company in the middle of a major transformation.
That's a good way to put it.
And now, thanks to this deep dive, they understand the risks, the potential, everything.
Exactly. And here's a final thought, something to leave them with.
Okay.
Eureka Forbes' success isn't just about selling products. It's about tapping into something bigger.
What do you mean?
This growing awareness of health and hygiene.
Okay.
If they can really become synonymous with that, not just a company, but a thought leader, a trusted guide,
Yeah.
that's where their real potential is.
That's a powerful idea. It's not just about water purifiers or vacuum cleaners anymore.
Right. It's about how people live, how they think about well-being in their homes.
That's a vision with some real staying power.
It is, but it takes more than just good products,
Yeah, it's about understanding what people need, the culture, and being able to adapt to how society changes.
Absolutely. Can they pull it off? Well, we'll see.
Only time will tell.
But one thing's for sure, they're playing a high-stakes game in a market that's changing fast.
Absolutely.
And our listener, thanks to this deep dive, they're ready to watch it all unfold.
They are. It's been a fascinating journey so far, unpacking these financials, looking into the future of Eureka Forbes.
It really has.
But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The whole inflation thing.
Oh, yeah.
The reports don't really say how rising prices might affect demand for their products.
That's true.
But it's a big deal, right? So what do you think? How might this affect them?
That's a good question. India's economy's been pretty strong, but inflation is a global thing.
Right.
It's bound to affect how people spend money.
So how does Eureka Forbes navigate that? What can they do to, lessen the impact?
Well, one option is focusing on more affordable products, pricing things strategically,
Right.
maybe introduce some budget-friendly lines, offer promotions, things like that.
Right. So they stay attractive even if people are watching their wallets more closely.
Exactly. They could also emphasize the long-term value,
Yeah.
like how their water purifiers can save you money on bottled water in the long run.
Or the energy-efficient appliances saving on electricity bills.
Yeah, exactly. It's about thinking long-term value, not just the upfront cost.
It's an investment, not just an expense.
Right. Another idea is expanding their financing options.
Like what?
Installment plans, things like that.
Oh,
Makes it easier for people to buy their products, even if they're worried about the economy.
It's about making it possible for people to invest in their health,
Yeah.
even when things are tight.
Exactly. And don't forget about innovation.
Right.
They need to keep coming up with new products, things that offer something unique.
Yeah, giving people a reason to choose them, even if they cost a bit more.
Exactly. It's all about staying ahead, offering something special.
So, to handle inflation, they need to understand their customers, what they need, and adapt.
Right. Be flexible, be agile, and respond to the market as it changes.
It's a tough challenge, but it seems like they're up for it.
They've adapted and innovated before, so I'm optimistic.
Me too. But let's switch gears for a bit. Let's talk about sustainability.
Oh, interesting. That's becoming more and more important for people, especially when it comes to health and hygiene.
Absolutely. People care about the impact their choices have on the environment and society.
Right, so how does Eureka Forbes address that? What are they doing about sustainability?
Good question.
Well, the reports don't go into a ton of detail, but we can get some clues from their overall strategy and the products they offer.
Okay, what have you noticed?
One thing is their focus on water conservation.
Hmm.
Their purifiers are designed to minimize waste,
Yeah.
which is good because water scarcity is a real problem in India.
So they're being part of the solution, not the problem.
Exactly. And beyond water, they're promoting reusable, durable products.
Like their vacuum cleaners that are built to last.
Right. That means fewer replacements, less electronic waste.
It's that whole circular economy idea.
Exactly. And that's a message that resonates with environmentally conscious consumers.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
But is there anything they could be doing better? Are there any areas where they need to step up?
Good question. I mean, what they're doing is good, but there's always room for improvement.
True.
One thing that comes to mind is their supply chain.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure their suppliers are ethical, sustainable, that would strengthen their whole sustainability profile.
Right. Sustainability is about the whole process from start to finish.
Exactly. And another area where they could improve is transparency.
What do you mean?
Giving more information about their sustainability practices.
Like their carbon footprint, energy use, things like that.
Exactly. That builds trust with consumers who want to know what's behind the products they buy.
Transparency is so important these days.
It really is. As people learn more about sustainability, they expect more from brands.
Makes sense.
And Eureka Forbes has a chance to be a leader here by being proactive, by showing they're committed to a sustainable future.
Yeah, they have a good foundation, but they can definitely grow and improve.
Absolutely. And I think that's important for our listener to remember.
Right.
When you're evaluating a company, it's not just about the money. It's about their values, their commitment to doing good for the world.
People are looking for brands that share their values, and sustainability is a big part of that.
Absolutely. And for Eureka Forbes, it's not just about doing good, it's also good for business.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. We've covered a lot, their financials, their strategies, sustainability.
A lot. It's been fascinating, this whole deep dive into Eureka Forbes.
It really has, and our listener has a much deeper understanding of the company now.
Definitely. But there's one more thing I think we should talk about before we finish.
What's that?
Innovation.
Oh, yeah, we touched on their new products, but how about we dig a little deeper into their overall approach?
Exactly. What makes them different? What's their secret sauce?
Well, from what I've seen, it's a mix of things.
Okay.
First, they're really customer-focused. They listen to their customers, figure out what they need, what problems they have.
And then they use innovation to solve those problems.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to experiment, try new things, push the boundaries.
That's pretty cool, especially for a company that's been around so long.
Right. It shows they're not complacent.
They're not just sticking with what they know.
Exactly. And they're strategic about it, too. It's not just random ideas. They have a vision, a plan for where they want to go.
So innovation is a tool to help them reach their goals.
Right. And they're also great at collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're not trying to do everything themselves. They partner with other organizations, research institutions, even startups.
So they're tapping into a wider pool of expertise.
Exactly. It helps them innovate faster, and it shows they have a very open culture.
They're not afraid to share ideas, to work together.
Exactly. So their approach to innovation is multifaceted, customer-driven, strategic, collaborative.
And that's how they stay on top.
I think so, yeah. It's a great example of how a company can use innovation to stay relevant.
And adapt to the changing market.
And make a positive impact on the world.
Inspiring stuff. But let's come back down to earth for a second. Focus on a key question for our listener.
Okay, what's that?
We've gone over their financials, their strategies, everything.
Right.
But the big question is, should our listener invest in Eureka Forbes?
The million-dollar question.
Is this a company worth putting their money into?
That's tough to answer, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a complex decision, lots of factors to consider, things we haven't even touched on here.
So what can we tell our listener? What should they be thinking about as they make this decision?
Well, first off, this isn't financial advice.
Right, we're not telling anyone what to do with their money.
We're just giving them information.
Exactly. But we can give them some things to think about, right?
For sure. So, as we've seen, Eureka Forbes has a lot going for it. Strong financials, a great brand, a wide reach, a good reputation, commitment to innovation.
Yeah, and they're in a market that's growing.
Exactly. All good signs. But we have to be realistic. There are risks, too.
Of course, like what?
Well, the competition is intense. There's no guarantee they can keep up this pace. The economy could change, people's preferences could shift, unexpected problems could pop up.
So there are both pros and cons.
Exactly. In the end, whether to invest or not is a personal choice.
Right.
There's no right answer. It's about weighing those pros and cons, thinking about your own financial goals, and how much risk you're comfortable with.
That's good advice. We can't make that decision for anyone, but we can help them make it with their eyes open.
I agree. And I think that's what we've done here.
Yeah.
We've given our listener a complete picture of Eureka Forbes, the good, the bad, and the potential.
They have all the information they need to make an informed choice.
It's been a fascinating journey, you know?
It really has. Exploring Eureka Forbes like this.
Unpacking their story.
And I hope our listeners feeling empowered, ready to make smart decisions about their financial future.
Me too. I always enjoy sharing these insights, helping people understand this stuff.
Well said. So, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We'll be back soon to continue this exploration of Eureka Forbes' Q2 FY25 financials.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, happy learning.
Happy learning.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see how they're, navigating all these changes.
Definitely.
But you're right, we have to think about the risks, too.
Exactly. No investment is a sure thing.
And their financials, I mean, they look good, but there are things that could throw them off course.
They're sure. The reports don't really go into specifics about risks.
Yeah.
But one big one is competition. The Indian market's pretty fierce.
So, how do they stack up against their rivals? What should our listeners be looking out for?
Well, as we said earlier, they have that strong brand built up over decades.
Yeah.
That's a huge plus, but there are other big players out there.
Right, like Kent and HUL, they're not going anywhere.
Exactly. They're both strong competitors with their own brands and networks.
So it's a real battle of the brands, huh? How do you see this all playing out? How can Eureka Forbes stay ahead?
It'll be interesting to see. One key thing is differentiation. They've shown they can innovate with the robotic vacuums and those water purifier upgrades.
Yeah.
But they'll need to keep pushing, stay ahead of consumer needs, maybe even move into new product areas.
Innovation is key, for sure. But what about pricing?
Yeah.
Could that be a problem, especially with new companies maybe offering lower prices?
It's definitely something to consider. Eureka Forbes has always been kind of a premium brand.
Right.
But as we discussed, inflation could make people more careful about how they spend.
Yeah.
So they need to find that balance, keeping that premium image, but also making sure their products are reachable for a broader range of customers.
It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope.
Exactly. And another challenge, the whole e-commerce thing.
Yes.
Their strength has been direct selling, but everyone's moving online.
Right. So can their old model adapt to this new digital world? Are they doing anything about it?
Well, it looks like they are taking steps.
Okay.
That the listing on the National Stock Exchange that shows they're engaging with modern financial markets. And the presentation mentioned partnerships with e-commerce platforms, so they're not ignoring online channels.
It's good that they're not stuck in the past.
Yeah, they're evolving.
But there's still a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
So how can our listener tell if they're really adapting well? What should they be looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, one thing is their online sales. Are they actually attracting and keeping customers online?
Makes sense.
And their marketing, is it speaking to a digital audience?
It's like they're writing a new chapter.
Yes.
And our listeners watching it happen.
Exactly. They have all the knowledge now to understand what's going on.
They do. And speaking of, developments, one thing we haven't talked much about is their CSR.
Oh, their corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, the reports don't say much about it, but it's important these days.
It is. Companies need to show they care about social and environmental stuff.
Absolutely. People want to support businesses that share their values.
Right. So what's Eureka Forbes doing in that area?
Yeah. What kind of initiatives do they have?
Well, the reports aren't very specific, but their focus on health and hygiene, that's inherently good for society, right?
Yeah. Giving people clean water, healthy homes, that benefits everyone.
Exactly. So their core business is already doing some good.
Okay.
But are they going further, doing specific CSR programs?
Yeah. Are there signs of that?
Well, they mention sustainability in their presentation, which aligns with environmental concerns, and they talk about employee well-being, so there's that social responsibility angle within the company, too.
Those are good signs, but could they do more? Where could they expand their efforts?
Definitely. One area is community outreach, especially in places where clean water and sanitation are lacking.
Yeah.
They have the expertise, the resources to make a real difference.
It's about more than just selling products. It's about making a positive impact.
Exactly. And they could partner with NGOs, social enterprises, to amplify their efforts.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. Their numbers, their plans, innovation, competition, even CSR.
It's been quite a journey.
But let's bring it back to our listener. What's the main takeaway for them?
Yeah, good point. What does all this mean for them personally?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Eureka Forbes is on the move.
They're not standing still.
They're innovating, adapting, trying to stay ahead in a fast-changing market.
Yeah.
They have challenges, but they're also grabbing opportunities.
And our listener, now they understand all of this.
They do.
They can follow along, understand what's shaping the company's future, and make their own choices about how they want to engage with Eureka Forbes.
Whether as a customer, an investor, or just someone who's interested.
Exactly. It's like we gave them a backstage pass.
We did.
They can see how things work, analyze the company, and even guess what they might do next.
And maybe most importantly, this deep dive has made them curious.
Oh, yeah.
To think about how businesses affect society, how innovation changes things, and how sustainability is so crucial for a better future.
I like that. That's a great way to put it.
It's been amazing exploring Eureka Forbes, sharing all this with our listener.
It really has.
I hope they're feeling empowered, informed, and inspired.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's always fun to unpack these companies, the stories behind the numbers.
Absolutely. And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking questions.